So jumping right into part two, we have the Las Vegas Raiders picking at 17. Now the Vegas Raiders have a lot of things I think they still have to fix as a team overall. Offensive line definitely being one of the focal points, but I definitely feel like they need to address this defense and build an identity on the defense. They're still searching for an identity on offense, but at least they have some idea of where they want to go. Defensively, I feel like they don't have an identity. They don't know if they can be a really good run stopping team or a good pass rushing team or whatever. Getting a guy like Zaven Collins, I think, can give them that identity that they're really searching for, and hopefully put a guy in the middle of this defense that they can eventually build around. I just think that's the right direction for them to go as of right now. Address the offensive line, maybe double down in the second and third round with offensive linemen, and then come back and probably address more of this defense. This defense has definitely been one of those, not Achilles heels, but definitely not one of their bright spots. So at 18, we have the Miami Dolphins back on the clock. Well, we got an offensive lineman for Tua. Now let's go get a weapon for Tua. Getting a guy like Devonta Smith is going to give him opportunity to have a level of comfort and chemistry that he probably has with a couple of guys on the roster currently, but this is going to be a different level of comfort. He's going to have a weapon that he knows that he can trust, that is going to be where he belongs, and everything else in between. And having Devonta Smith fall this far is probably likely, honestly. And if you're the Miami Dolphins, I think it's a really good pick. Now what you do is, if you're Miami, we double down on offense in the first round. Let's go in the later rounds and really start to address this defense in the second, third, and later. I think that if you go this route, it's going to allow you to build a more confident and comfortable team, and then like have Tua know that he has his guy once again that he had when he was back in college. So I think this is just, it almost seems too perfect, but I think it's the right move if you're Miami. So at number 19, we have the Washington football team. Now, I definitely kept seeing people say go defense, but I feel like this is one of the most scariest defenses in the league. So why go defense? But then they got Taylor Heineke, I think that's how you say his name. They got Taylor Heineke back, and he's a guy that I guess they feel comfortable with. They did go out and get Curtis Samuel in the offseason, so I guess that's another weapon they feel comfortable with. Get a little bit more size in the later rounds. I think that's definitely a need for sure, especially on their receiving core. The offensive line, once again, can be addressed just to tweak a little bit here and there. Just small things, but I think getting a guy like Jamin Davis would now elevate this defense to a whole nother level. And when you think about it, you'll have a guy like Chase Young and Jamin Davis. Not granted, they didn't come out the same draft, but they will only be a year apart as far as contracts goes. So this may be a defense that can grow together and ball out together, honestly. And getting a guy like Jamin Davis definitely would add some speed and athleticism to the second level of this defense that I feel like it's truly lacking. Getting a guy back like Landon Collins that was hurt last year and really start to have this defense probably be one of the better, if not the best defense in the league. Getting a guy like Jamin Davis is just it feels right. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be Ryan's Luke Kuechly, but this is Ron's opportunity to possibly go get him another inside linebacker that he can feel really comfortable with, giving the whole playbook to. At number 20, we have the Chicago Bears. Now, Zach Wilson going to the Chicago Bears at 20 is the perfect idea. I'm not sure if Zach is going to make it this far, but if he was to, I think that this is the best fit for them. This gives you an opportunity to kind of get your Patrick Mahomes if you're Matt Nagy, and then have your guy not rush into the league either. If you got Andy Dalton that you feel comfortable starting a couple of games with, go ahead, ease Zach Wilson into the league. You try starting your rookie quarterback right away, and that didn't work out really well for you. So let's do the opposite way and just ease our guy into the league. Let him really digest the playbook and get an opportunity to get out there and do something. This defense is set right now, but I know the window is closing and they only have a small limit of time, so they kind of want to get a guy in there and try to win some ball games right away. But if they catch Zach Wilson going up as the defensive window is trying to close down, I think they have an opportunity to at least have a shot at a Super Bowl or two, because this defense is probably one of the most consistent and scariest defenses in the league. And if they can do those two, if they can catch it at the right time, it will be a really scary, dangerous team in Chicago for sure. So now at 21, we have the Indianapolis Colts. Now, when it comes to the pass rushers in this draft class, a lot of people are like kind of weary about taking some of them in the first round. And I think because we've been so spoiled over the last couple of years with the Bosa brothers and Myles Garrett and then Chase Young last year, we've just been spoiled with a lot of pass rushers coming out, which is understandable. Like, it just happens. You feel like that we should always have a top 5, top 3 pass rusher, but this is not the case, especially not this year. But I think a guy like Jason Oweh going to the Indianapolis Colts is a really good deal. I think the Colts defense isn't necessarily needing a guy right away to be a dominant pass rusher. Begin a guy like Jason, I think, can put him on that defense line next to DeForest Buckner, who's definitely inserted himself as probably one of the best, if not top five defensive linemen, interior defense linemen in the league. You get a guy like Darius Leonard moving around, and with Jason, he has crazy athleticism. So this defense just gets faster, quicker, stronger, and probably more scarier. Like, it was a top 10 defense last year, and I think that they build on that by getting a guy like Jason Oweh and just keep going in that direction. You already got your quarterback. Offensively, I think you got some decent skill position players. Maybe tweak the offensive line in the later parts of the draft, but definitely getting a pass rusher like Jason Oweh, I think, would elevate this defense. At least keep it where it was last year, or even elevate it to another level for sure. At number 22, we have the Tennessee Titans. Now, I was going over their roster. The first guy that popped in my mind was Tevin Jenkins, the OSU right tackle. I felt like that was a guy that they could easily plug in, and hopefully he could fill that void of Jack Conklin that I think they were badly missing last year. But I realized that they were really trying to focus on this defense and not really overhaul it, but just give it a facelift and a new look, if you will. Getting a guy like Bud Dupree is definitely going to bring some kind of level of pass rusher that they did not have last year. But then adding a guy like Greg Newsome to the secondary is going to upgrade the cornerback position slightly as well. This team needs to upgrade the defense more and more, so I can definitely understand going defense here, and that's why I felt Greg Newsome was the best pick for them. Getting a guy like Tevin Jenkins also makes sense, so I wouldn't be surprised if they went that route as well. So at 23, we have the New York Jets. Now, when it comes to the Jets, we took Justin Fields in the first part of this draft, so now Robert Saleh has his quarterback. I think it's most important that he takes his running back now. Now, the one thing the New York Jets have done over the last couple of years is they have always had a defensive-minded head coach and a really shaky offense. Getting a guy like Najee Harris is going to allow you to establish a run game early and often and take some pressure off to Justin Fields and the rest of this offense. Najee Harris is a do-it-all running back. Now, I know a lot of people like Travis Etienne a little bit more, but I think Najee Harris has a little bit more durability to his game and a little bit more power to his game that's definitely going to hold up in the NFL. Not saying Travis Etienne can't, just saying that I feel like Najee Harris is one of the better running backs in this year's class, and that I feel like that he's a do-it-all running back and an every-down running back. So definitely put him out there with Justin Fields, and this offense is going to take off a little bit more pressure. And now we can go in the later parts of the draft, and a guy like Robert Saleh can then go build his defense that way, because I feel like the defense is going to be okay under his thumb, but I'm not sure about this offense. We got to make sure this offense is steady and solid as much as possible, and again, a guy like Najee Harris is definitely going to trend you in the right direction. Coming in at 24, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, they have a lot of needs on the offensive line, losing a guy like Andre Villanueva, I think that's how you would say his name, losing him to free agency, possibly losing him to the Baltimore Ravens. They need to start addressing his offensive line. Big Ben is not getting younger, and he's definitely not getting more mobile. Getting a guy like Tevin Jenkins is definitely going to input them in the right direction to at least start to rebuild this offensive line. Now, Jenkins right now in my mind is a right tackle, but you put him in camp, give him some rookie OTAs, maybe take a couple of snaps to the left tackle, maybe he might be something. I'm not sure. But right now in my mind, he's a right tackle regardless of anything. If he's a right tackle, he's a right tackle. Go get another guy in the later rounds. Hopefully he can play some left tackle. Let these guys duke it out in camp and let the best man win at the left tackle position. But definitely protecting Big Ben is going to be the right way to go. This offense was a very stubby offense, and that wasn't something that I was accustomed to coming out of Pittsburgh. Usually Pittsburgh offenses are really pushing the ball down the field with some of their receivers, but this last year they were really stubby. They were kind of staying within that 20-yard range, taking shots randomly here and there, but they have the weapons to take shots. They just don't have the offensive line to do so. So again, a guy like Tevin Jenkins is definitely going to put them in the right direction to hopefully start being that more explosive offense again. At 25, we have Jabril Cox going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jabril Cox, the safety, that is. Now, I think that Jabril Cox should definitely move to the safety position. I've been saying that this whole entire offseason. I think he's the guy that could be really effective in that role. He's a guy that's a willing tackler, has great athleticism, a guy that can take away tight ends, running backs, and some of those shallow routes coming across. He's a guy that I think that the league is wanting to have at that position, but not knowing that they need just yet. And if you take him at the safety position, I think he's the best safety in this class. But if you take him at the linebacker position, definitely he's a second-round pick. But Jacksonville needed the safety help, and I felt like this was the perfect time to insert Jabril Cox at that position and definitely give him an opportunity to play that safety role that I feel like now he could be a box safety, still do what he does best and attack the ball, but then still drop him back in coverage because he does have he has a little bit DB in his background, but drop him back in coverage and allow him to take away some of those shallow routes and tight ends. I think that's a really clever pick, and I think it would be really scary to see him at the safety position, honestly. At 26, we have the Cleveland Browns. And so I was going over their roster, and I thought to myself, what do you give a team that practically has everything that they need to win a Super Bowl today? And I was like, well, maybe they need Nick Bolton, the linebacker. I definitely feel like you insert Nick Bolton next to Mac Wilson, give you an opportunity to have two quick, fast linebackers that can mirror each other, honestly, so your defense is always flowing the right way. Regardless, they won't catch you off guard. And after watching the Super Bowl with Levante David and Devin White and what they did, I think a lot of teams are going to start looking for those tandems. Getting a guy like Nick Bolton and teaming up with Mac Wilson definitely give this defense that added flair that they've been not quite missing, but definitely an added flair that they've been missing. And I would say that it could be a scary defense. And once again, like I said, the Cleveland Browns are ready to win a Super Bowl today. That roster is loaded with nothing but talent and playmakers. So getting a guy like Nick Bolton would just only make more sense. And putting him next to Mac Wilson, and hopefully you got a linebacker tandem. Not the equivalent to Tampa's, but definitely close to. At 27, we have the Baltimore Ravens. Now, when I was going over their roster, looking at some of the things, their secondary is probably really good, actually, I think. And then you look at their linebacking core, getting Patrick Queen last year, and he definitely stepped up and showed some flashes. But the pass rush is lacking. Offensively, I think we're comfortable. Not great, but comfortable. But their pass rushing is atrocious. I think getting a guy like Kwity Paye and having the Baltimore Ravens getting Kwity Paye will only make sense. It's like the match made in heaven because Baltimore understands how to develop players regardless of position. And Kwity Paye is one of those guys that definitely needs that level of coaching and development. You put him in that situation in Baltimore in about 2 or 3 years, we're going to look at him as one of the top league's pass rushers. At 28, we have the New Orleans Saints. Now, looking at the offensive side of the ball, guys like Terrence Marshall, Jalen Waddle, or even Rashard Bateman made sense here. I get it. That was definitely a direction that they probably wanted to go. If they do, it makes sense. I just don't agree with it. But when you flip it to the defense side of the ball, they did lose Sheldon Rankins to the New York Jets in free agency. So I definitely feel like at this point in time, replacing him is the most important need because this defensive line and this defense in general is definitely a stud. And I want to try to keep trending in that direction. Getting a guy like Christian Barmore is definitely going to allow you to do that. I'm not saying he's going to replace Sheldon Rankins to that level or that standard, but definitely be a direction I would like to go. Putting him in the middle of this defense allows guys like Marcus Davenport, Malcolm Roach, or even Cam Jordan to get off a little bit more. Having a guy to just fill up some gaps and holes and let guys like Demario Davis run free. Whatever the case may be, but getting a guy like Christian Barmore I think is more of a necessary, like a need than a luxury as getting a number 2 receiver. At number 30, we have the Green Bay Packers. Now, last year, the Green Bay Packers did something completely wild. Took a quarterback in the first round, and everybody was just completely thrown off by it. And they kind of, like, let's be honest, pissed off their quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. I think this year they do right by him, and they'll give him a speedster, a guy that can really take the top off the defense and let Devontae Adams work underneath. And I think that's the direction they should go. Getting a guy like Jalen Waddle is going to allow this offense to be more explosive and open up. And I think for once in Aaron Rodgers' career, give him that scary deep threat guy. Like he sees what's happening here in Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill. And Aaron Rodgers is kind of like, I want that. Like, granted, he has Devontae Adams, and I think Devontae Adams still is going to be his number 1 guy. But getting a guy like Jalen Waddle that can take a top off of defense, I think that would be the best thing for the Green Bay Packers to definitely make Aaron Rodgers feel more comfortable and saying, okay, we're serious about trying to win a Super Bowl. And at the same time saying that, okay, Aaron, we got you a first-round receiver, so shut up. So at number 30, we have the Buffalo Bills. Now, this pick was kind of difficult for me to make because they had a lot of directions they could have went with this pick. So even trading out of the first round can definitely be an option for the Buffalo Bills. Getting a number 2 receiver for Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen definitely makes sense as well. Tight end, possibly. I'm not sure there's a first-round tight end at this point outside of Kyle Pitts. But tight end, even possibly. But I like Travis Etienne. I think he's a slightly better runner than Zach Moss, or a little bit more explosive runner than Zach Moss, and a better runner than, say, Devin Singletary. He's a do-it-all running back. He's a guy that can stay in there first, second, and third down. A guy that I think the Buffalo Bills can need, honestly. He's not quite a number 2 receiver, but he definitely takes some pressure off of Josh Allen, and hopefully they can start running the ball more. Now, guard is definitely a possibility here. A corner, their safeties are aging, so they, like I said, they had a plethora of directions they can go. So trading back is definitely an option I can see. But Travis Etienne was the pick I went with here because I feel like he can definitely take pressure off Josh Allen in that passing attack and hopefully be a more fluid or effective runner than Devin Singletary and Zach Moss. So at 31, we have the Baltimore Ravens, and this one kind of hurts me. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not on board with the Orlando Brown trade, But that's a different story for a different day. But we have the Baltimore Ravens currently on the clock, and I think a guy like Terrence Marshall makes sense in the direction they want to go with this offense. You can see that they're definitely trying to set up things for Lamar Jackson to be more effective passer, and I think it's more or less to see what they got at Lamar at this point in time. They're not that dangerous once they get the playoffs. Granted, you would think they would be more dangerous, or at least one of the most dangerous teams in the league because they run the ball so effectively. But when it comes to the playoff time and it's time for Lamar to make a couple of throws, it seems like he's always off kilt and he just doesn't have the opportunity. So I think they're trying to upgrade the size at the wide receiver position, going to get a guy like Sammy Watkins. Now we get a guy like Terrence Marshall on the other side. And then we move Marquise Brown into the slot position. Then maybe at this point in time, Lamar has a little bit more confidence throwing the ball to the outside or the perimeters, having bigger targets out there. So again, a guy like Terrence Marshall, who is a athletic freak and a beast at his size, can definitely, hopefully, make Lamar Jackson's passing attack a little bit more effective for the Baltimore Ravens. So I can definitely see them going this direction with him. So at 32, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking their pick. This one stings. Now, let me let you know, this one stings. But at 32, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking their guy, Jalen Phillips. I think that this makes the most sense. Their pass rush is aging, and they're quite, like those guys, JPP and Shaq Barrett, definitely had a great Super Bowl. And I think that they want to try to build on top of that success. The offensive linemen, not quite needed there. They did really well with what they had in place, and I think they still trend in that right direction. Again, a guy like Jalen Phillips is going to allow him to come in and learn from a guy like JPP and Shaq Barrett, and hopefully then eventually they have a flawless transition between pass rushers, because that's the one thing about all the pass rushers this year. Everybody feel like they're underdeveloped, so always pin these pass rushers in situations where they can learn from someone and definitely get their knowledge from someone that's done it at a high level for quite some time. I think that's a really good move for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Getting a guy like Jalen Phillips is still in the first round, because then eventually if you develop him and allow him to just pick up some tips and tricks from guys like JPP and Shaq Barrett, he can then be a pass rush threat on a young defense trending in the right direction. So that's all I have for you guys in this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed this mock draft. Sorry it took so long for me to put it out, but this is what I think this should happen for some of these teams. I think this is the right direction for some of these teams to go. Like I said, I know there's some trades and stuff that's going to happen within the top 10, top 15, which is only going to make sense because there's some of the quarterbacks that are going to possibly be falling down the board. But I feel like that if teams stay where they are, these are the players that they should get that have the most impact on their current roster, and I just think that's the direction they should go. So hey, if you guys like it, give it a thumbs up, and if you don't, give it a thumbs down and let me know why. And if you're not a footballologist yet, go and hit that subscribe button and become a footballologist today, and stay safe, football fans.